We are working on literal equations today, so make sure that you write literal equations in the topic section and then today's date. And on your note sheet, you'll see a description of literal equation as an equation that involves two or more variables. So we're going to see today through our examples that we are isolating a variable, but then our answer is still going to involve variables. So it's just a different way of thinking about working with solving equations. And so when you've solved equations before, you've ended up with a number as your solution. So x equals 3 or y equals -5. And with these equations, it's not, your answer isn't going to look the same. So it's just a different way of thinking about the same processes that you've already learned. So our first example says to solve for r. So I'm going to highlight what we're trying to get by itself. And so in this case, we're trying to isolate the r. So when we're looking at that, we need to find out what operation is taking place between 2 pi and r. And in this case, we are multiplying those values together, so the 2, the pi, and the r. So to undo that multiplication and to get r by itself, we need to divide by 2 pi in order to get r by itself. So we're going to divide by 2 pi and divide by 2 pi. And then that will eliminate the 2 and the pi. So we're left with r, which is our goal because we wanted to get r by itself. So r to equal. And here we have our answer. So the c, which in this case, this is the formula for circumference. So circumference divided by 2 pi. And so that is the equation solved for r because we have r by itself. So when we look at the next one, it says solve for m. So if our goal is to get m by itself, then we need to see what is happening to m. And in this case, we have m divided by v. So we need to undo this division of v. So we are going to multiply by v. And so when we do that, that is going to eliminate that division of v. So we are left with m is equal to d times v. And so that would be our answer. The next one says solve for b. So we're going to solve for this variable here. And so we need to determine what we're going to need to move first. So in this case, we need to undo and move this 2x. And so since this is a positive 2x, we would need to subtract 2x and subtract 2x from the other side. So when we do that, y minus 2x, those are not like terms, so we're going to leave them that way, so y minus 2x, and that would be set equal to, and so it got rid of the 2x, but we're still left with 2b. So our goal is to still get b by itself, so we still need to undo this operation here. And so since we're multiplying by 2, we would divide by 2. So our answer when we solve for b equals, and your answer is right here. It's that whole piece. So y minus 2x, all of that divided by 2. And so that is the equation when we solve for b. On the next equation, it also asks us to solve for b. So highlighting what we're trying to get by itself. And think of this just like any normal equation. So we need to get rid of that constant or move that constant. So in this case, since it's plus h, we would need to subtract h and subtract h from the other side. So then we have b divided by d is equal to x minus h. And so since we're trying to get b by itself, we need to undo the division of d. And so to do that, we need to multiply by d and multiply by d here. But what's important to remember is that if you leave it like this, then this means x minus h times d. But you need to multiply d by everything that's over on the right side of the equation. So you have to have parentheses around this x minus h for it to be a true statement. So then when your d's are eliminated here, then you have b by itself. So b is equal to, and you could leave your answer like this, but a lot of times if we have that value, or in this case the variable, and we're distributing, normally you see it out in front. So d times the quantity of x minus h, making sure that d is multiplied by each of the terms there in the parentheses, so that you have to have the parentheses. The next one asks us to solve for n. So we're trying to get n by itself. So we need to remove the 3m from the left side of the equation and move it to the right side. So in order to move the 3m, we would need to subtract 3m and subtract 3m. And so in this case, you also have to be really careful that you bring down what's left. And so we're left with, we would have a negative n. So making sure that you bring the sign down with it, so negative n, or the opposite of n, equals k minus 3m. And so now n isn't entirely by itself. So remember that there's a negative 1 right in front of that n. So we need to undo that negative 1. And so since negative 1 is being multiplied by n, we can divide by negative 1. And when we do that, that would leave our n as a positive n. But then we have to think about what's going to happen to the right side of our equation. So if you have 1k divided by a negative 1, then that would make our k negative k. And if you had a negative 3m divided by a negative 1, that would give us a positive 3m. So making sure that you finish that last step, that we can't just leave it as negative n or the opposite of n. We want n to be completely by itself. All right, last one. So it asks us to solve for c. So the first thing that we need to undo is this division of 3. So to undo that division of 3, we are going to multiply both sides by 3. And when we do that, that cancels out the 3 or eliminates that. So we are left with the entire numerator. So a plus b plus c is equal to d times 3, or 3d. And we're still trying to get c by itself. So we need to remove or undo the a and the b from this side. So we can subtract a and subtract A. So then we would have B plus C is equal to 3D minus A. And then we still need to get C by itself. So then we would also need to remove the B from the left side. So we could subtract B and subtract B. And so now all that's left on the left side is C, and that's equal to 3D minus A minus B. And so that would be the equation solved for C. Now you need to pick up your assignment and complete the odd numbered problems on each side of the worksheet. So just the odd numbers on each side of the worksheet.